Good afternoon, YouTube. This is I think this is my fourth video now actually on this old vise. There's been a slow progress with it, partially because I've been busy with other things, and partially because I needed to wait for stuff to get delivered. I mentioned in my previous video that I wasn't particularly happy with these original bolts or cap screws which came with the vise. These 4 cap screws were for retaining the jaws. There was no uniformity in them. 3 of them have smooth heads, there's no knurling pattern on them, but off that 3 there's only 2 the same length, and they're both threaded or stripped or turned down. The other one, the longer of the 3, is maybe that was turned as well, possibly. So they're kind of crap looking. The 4th is got a knurled pattern head, and it's also been ground up, so it's been shortened from a longer bolt. So I wasn't happy with them. I wanted new bolts, so I got some ordered up. The first set that I got were 1.5 inches long, but 1.5 inches turns out to be just slightly too long. So I got 4 new 1" by 1/2 inch British Standard Sweatworth. So hold on a moment, I'll take the camera down. So one of the things I was experiencing was that there was quite a lot of dirt in all the threaded holes. I mean, it was bad, and the bolts wouldn't thread in correctly. Now I could tell that they were the right bolts. I took the thread from the originals, and they would go in partially, but you could feel it getting tighter and tighter and tighter as you wound them in. Basically the bottoms of the holes were just completely covered in crud and grease and earth and rust and chips and bits of sawdust and all sorts of shit, and they just wouldn't thread in smoothly. Now I tried picking it out with toothpicks and little wire brushes and miscellaneous bits of stuff and blowing it out, and I wasn't happy. I like the threads to be clean. It just makes life easier. When if you ever have to replace the threads, stripping threads and effing around with helicoils and taps and all that. So what I decided to do was I decided to order up a set of tap and dies. Now that's another rant really. I got this tap and die set home. It's cheap chonny. It won't cut butter. It's just really poor grade of metal that's been used to produce these taps and dies. But in this instance, they're sufficient to clean out the likes of this. That's all I wanted it for, nothing else. So I cleaned out these 2 holes, and I cleaned out these 2 here as well, and all the bolt days now, go into the jaws perfect. I never took any material out of the thread. All I took out was the dirt. I was quite careful. I never, if the tap went tight at all, I stopped, and I wind it out and then get all the any dirt that was blocking the tap from entering smoothly. You know, I took my time basically, and I did it right. Yeah. Now this one does appear to have a little bit of damage or something. I think maybe the thread has picked up a bit of swarf or something, and that is sticking on the threads of the bolt. So that one does seem to catch on something about halfway down, but whatever's there isn't being touched by the tap, and I am able to manually just wind the nut, the cap screw all the way in without too much difficulty. But it is catching on something there. It might just be a bit of stone or something that's been pressed into the thread, or I don't know. There's something there that's not right. But, as you can see, everything's been painted. I'm not particularly happy with the paint, but it'll do. Like I say, this isn't going to stay clean for long once I start using it. You'll see a lot of issues here with the paint. I might touch that section up yet. You know, this thing is really heavy. Yeah, I mean, you've no idea how heavy this is for the size of it. It hurts. I've got a wee problem with my right wrist, and it actually hurts me to pick this thing up. It's painful to pick this up. So what I've been doing is I've had it up on its side and painting one side of it, and then when that dries I'll flip it over onto its other side and then paint the other side of it. So I masked this off, you know, got that nice. For some reason they've machined the side of the casting here, and they've done the same on the opposite corner there, look. Now I'm thinking that maybe that's been part of a stop on a rotating table, possibly. I don't know, but that served a purpose, and it might serve a purpose again in the future. So I've left that unpainted. You can see here that there's a small area that I've missed the second coat, so I'll need to touch that bit up as well. And there's, you know, bits where the paint has been a bit sloppy, so I'll need to clean these bitties up, you know, where the painting's not been very nice. But generally, it's reasonable, you know, it's not too bad. Nice shiny finish. Where was it? Was it this side? No, it was the other side, I think. But in here on the other side I've got a little bit more paint than I should have, and I'm hoping it's not going to impede the runners that bolt on here. Now coming to that, sod's law, yeah? I bought a tap and die set specifically for cleaning out the threads on this vise, and 1/2 inch BSP. There's little holes underneath. I think that's 1/4 inch BSP, but this little bastards here are 5/16, not BSP, sorry, my apologies. British Standard Whitworth BSW, yeah. So that was 1/2 inch BSW, 1/4 inch BSW, and these little bastards are 5/16 BSW. And the tap and die set didn't have 5/16 BSW tap, did it? So while the cap screws were quite clean and were actually holding the plates on when I got it home, they were only just threaded in and no more. Yeah, they were just gripping and no more. And when I actually started examining inside here, completely packed with dirt and rust and just all sorts of crud. Even worse than these larger ones were. Yeah. There's no way I could get. There's only one of these that I could get to go in, yeah, and the rest of them were so tight I was scared I'd strip the threads. So that had to be cleaned out, and I don't have compressed air, you know, that would have made my job a lot easier, but yeah, so I had to buy another tap. Now, it wasn't bad. I picked one up on eBay for 99p, where I think it was about £1.20 postage. So £2 or £3 for the 5/16 BSW tap. I paid about £13 for the tap and die set. I ordered up some O-rings for the shaft. I don't know if you recall me mentioning that, but the ones that came home were only 1/16 of an inch cross-sectional diameter, and that was too small, so I've got to send them back yet, but that was a couple of quid for that, because it was the smallest pack that they would supply was 10 O-rings. So I've got to send that back yet, but I will get my money refunded for that, a couple of quid. So I thought, well, that firm couldn't supply me with O-rings of the right diameter, which were also about 1/8 of an inch cross-sectional diameter, yeah. So I decided just to buy an O-ring kit rather than mess around any further. So the O-ring kit was another £6 or £7. So just for the O-rings, the tap and die set, oh, and then there was I bought a roll pin set as well. That was another £6 or £7. And oh aye, then there's the cost of the BSW bolties, yeah. I bought ones that were inch long, and I bought ones which are 1.5 inches long. The 1.5 inches is too long, so I could return them possibly, but the postage is going to be, a pound or two just to return them, so I'm just going to keep them. So I've spent £3 or £4, £5 on these bolties. So I'm looking at about 30 quid already just on bits and pieces to assist me in the refurbishment of this vise. On top of the 35 quid I paid for it, I also paid 20 quid postage. So I'm looking at about roughly 35 times 2 plus 20. So I'm looking at about roughly 90 quid in all told so far. So yeah, was it worth it? I don't know. I want to say it's a pastime. It's keeping me busy, I suppose. I do get a sense of satisfaction from restoring tools and equipment and machinery. Getting back into working condition. Whether it's financially worth it, I probably doubt it. You'll see similar vices as this going second hand on eBay, complete in reasonably good condition, certainly usable condition for the workshop, for anywhere between £80 to £100, £120. So I'm already just creeping over the £80 mark, but I'm getting the satisfaction of fixing it up and sort of, I want to say restoring it, because the jaws are still in a sort of crappy sort of condition. I did dress the jaws down. Which one was it? Wasn't that one, right? This other one here, it had sustained some damage, and I don't know if the camera will pick it up now, but you can see where it's been rubbed down. Both these jaws were stoned. I took a sharpening stone and just rubbed at any of the edges off, so that feels smooth to the touch now. Obviously you'll still feel a little groove in there with your fingernail, but it's flat to the touch. There's nothing protruding above the surface, so that should hopefully help hold anything that I'm putting into this vise square. Everything's been cleaned now, just ready for assembly really. Still haven't done the collar for the shaft. That's got to be done yet. Can't find my Vee Block. I've searched high and low for my Vee Block and I can't find it. I don't know where it's gone. I wouldn't chuck it out. I'm not that type of guy. I don't chuck stuff out, you know. So it must be either buried underneath something or it's been pinched. But it's probably just been set somewhere safe, you know what I mean? And then I've forgotten where I've set it. So I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing here by taping these machine surfaces off. Having a machine surface, if you know it's you know, tangential or parallel or whatever to the job, is useful. On this movable jaw, that's maybe the wrong thing to do, and maybe I should have left the fixed jaw, because this was a machine surface. So I might take the paint off of that yet. This tape takes quite a good grip. So yeah, it's going to look alright when it's done, but you know, obviously this will rust if I don't take care of it. I've got a fluid, is it ACF or something, or AFC 50? I think it's a fluid that was developed to help prevent corrosion on aircraft, and it goes on transparent, you know, it doesn't have any colour to it, and when it goes on it looks like that there's nothing there, but obviously there must be a film, and that's any film of chemical on any machine surface is going to put in a element of error onto that surface. So that's why we never have anything on machine surfaces, so that you can get a true and accurate reading if you're using a clock gauge, for instance, or some other device. So I'll just set this camera down. I'm just about out of time anyway, folks, but all I've got left to do is to make the collar, the retaining collar, and make the handle. The handle's going to be they're both going to be awkward to do because I don't have the right tools to do it, but I'll come up with something. So anyway, I think that's about me for now. That goes in there. Oh yeah. So I got the two O-rings, and the shaft is, well, I've shown you the shaft already, that's fine now. I'll set that over there. And I've got the roll pin for the shaft and the retaining collar. I've got the 4 bolties for the jaws. That old one can get heaved. And yeah, that's her. She's pretty much finished, and this video's finished, so bye for now. Stay safe, folks.